All right. Let's see here. Are we live, YouTube? We're waiting on you, YouTube. There we go. Here we go. Oh, man. All right. We are live. What is up, Internet? How is everybody? Good to see you. Welcome to a special edition of Get Your News On with Ron. We are talking to a friend of the show who has been on the show in the past, David Rovics, anarchist, singer-songwriter out of Portland, Oregon. Well, David was touring internationally. He was in England, among some other places as well. And while he was in London, he wanted to stop by the Belmarsh prison to see Julian Assange. And he's here today to tell us what unfolded there. David, how are you?
Hey, great. How are you?
Thanks for coming on and sharing this with us. So let's start at the beginning. Why did you want to visit Julian Assange? Why was that something that was important to you? You know, you hear basically what I'm really getting at with this question. You know, you hear so much in the corporate media smearing Julian Assange. He was an agent of Russia and this and that. How do you respond to those takes on him?
Yeah, he's been very successfully smeared in so many different ways. But the important thing about Julian Assange and about WikiLeaks is the work that they've done to expose corruption around the world and war crimes. This is and essentially their role in the world has been the role of any great journalistic enterprise, and they need to be protected, not sent to prison for decades, just like which is the same with any whistleblower or investigative journalist working with a whistleblower, whether you're talking about the Pentagon Papers or the Panama Papers or the war crimes exposés in Iraq and Afghanistan that Julian Assange was essentially for. I mean, this is what it's about.
Well, have you ever had this conversation with somebody where they're kind of just parroting what they heard on MSNBC about Julian Assange or what they heard on Fox News or wherever, and they're saying, "Well, he needs to go to trial" and stuff like that, and then you just kind of look at them and you're like, "Okay, what did he do?"
Yeah,
and then you sort of see them glaze over a little bit because they're just like, "Well, he published this stuff," and it's like, "And isn't that his job?" Well, I mean, he published it at a weird time. It was like right before the election. Like, okay. And it was about stuff the DNC was doing for a particular candidate. When would a better time have been? Should he have waited until after the election? Would that have been the journalistic responsible thing to do? Well, no. He likes Trump though. Like, does he? Have you ever heard him say that? Do you have any evidence of that? Well, no. Do you know that on WikiLeaks there are thousands of things that are very unfavorable to Donald Trump? You know that, right? Well, I guess so. Yeah, it's out there. Well, he's an agent of Russia. Do you know that? Do you know that? Do you know that? Well, I've heard it. Yeah, but so what's he on trial for? We're back to number one. What did he do? What's he on trial for? Well, there's the rape. No. That's not. They're not looking into that rape case. That thing was dropped and then revamped and then dropped and then revamped and then dropped and then revamped and now it's dropped again. So,
and it's not related to the charges.
And it's not related to the charges. It's not related to the charges. That's not why they're trying to send him to the United States. And that's his concern. He doesn't want to be sent to the United States because he knows what's waiting for him. So again, what is he on trial for? I've yet to hear a decent answer. Have you gotten one, David?
Well, I mean, the real reason he's on trial, we know, of course, but because he's exposed U.S. war crimes,
right?
But he's unapologetic about it. But he's done a better job of exposing U.S. war crimes than probably any other journalist alive. But. The smear campaigns is I have gotten a lot less of any of that from people since he's been in Belmarsh. Personally, I don't run into nearly so much of that. He's just not being talked about anymore. But right. I mean, for a long time when he was really I think a broadly popular figure globally. Which I think arguably he still is, but he's been smeared so thoroughly and unable to defend himself, without any connection to the internet for years, uh, but now that he's been transferred to Belmarsh, I mean, it's obvious that to any moron that he is wanted by the U.S. For reasons that have nothing to do with the allegations in Sweden, which is or the, that I don't know if he's. I don't hear people saying he's a Russian agent, but maybe I don't. Spend enough time with people who are listening to MSNBC. But
Bless you for it.
Yeah, right. I can't stand that kind of advocacy journalism. Actually,
Neither can I. Neither can I. So, all right. So, bringing up to present, you're in London. You want to see this guy. What happened?
well, I mean, I quickly discovered that in order to, I've visited prisoners fairly regularly in different countries, and I've not, as a matter of, not all the time, but enough that I know that it's very frequently the case that you can just visit during visiting hours, which I quickly discovered is not the case with Julian Assange, and you have to get a visiting order, and you have to be in touch with his lawyer, and it's a bit of a process that I didn't allow enough time for, so I wasn't able to get inside the gates. But
So, did you just show up at the gates and you were like, "Hey, here's what I want to do," and they kind of just gave you all that information, or like how did that unfold?
Oh no, I learned when I announced my intentions to go visit Julian Assange during visiting hours, I was pretty quickly informed by people, like I think it was somebody who was actually a lawyer there who was involved with prisons and knows the rules in terms of visiting Julian Assange specifically at Belmarsh. So he explained about the visiting order, and I looked into it and realized I did not have time to, while I was there, to get a visiting order. But I was also already in touch with people that I met when I was outside of the Ecuadorian embassy when Assange was being held there. Um, like a year and a half ago, I guess we were outside of the embassy at a protest, and there were some really very good filmmakers doing work out there, and that they used some of my, what I was doing, singing there at the outside the embassy in some nice stuff that they did on Twitter, and so I had contacted them to see if they wanted to meet me at the prison. So basically, that was the video was a collaborative result of me meeting them on that rainy afternoon at the prison.
What have they been up to since the moving to the Belmarsh prison? I mean, I know you were active there a little while ago. You participated in some protests outside of the embassy. What are some of those Assange groups up to currently? Like when you caught up with them, what were some of the discussions there?
Well, I mean, everybody, as far as I can tell, who's involved with any kind of trying to defend Assange or mount a, form of, I mean, they're basically trying to get the word out about what's going on, why he's at Belmarsh, why he's wanted in the United States, and that it's completely unethical and it's scary to allow him to be extradited, and to allow and of course why the U.S. wants to punish him for his work as a journalist should be very chilling to anybody who works in journalism anywhere in the world, because this is not even he's not even in the United States anyway. I mean, this is potentially the U.S. is going to accuse you of things and try to get you extradited and put you away for 175 years. And anybody that thinks that this is just going to happen to Assange and not to other journalists is, really living in a fantasy world. And of course, he's not the only one I mean, of course, he's maybe the only one who's clearly a journalist rather than a whistleblower. But of course, there's a lot of gray areas between the two naturally, and there always has been. And of course, there's other people who are more clearly in the whistleblower category, like
Sure.
who are wanted for similar kinds of lengths of time, and that's also very alarming.
Well, that's what they're trying. Like, that's why they really tried to get Chelsea Manning to say that Julian Assange helped her do this and helped her do that, because that would be their like smoking gun that they want. And she wouldn't do it. They kept holding her in solitary confinement, which is a form of torture. And she wouldn't do it because she's saying, well, that's not the truth. I'm not going to lie. And what's happening to Julian Assange, and yes, again, he is the publisher, but they use that as a message to future whistleblowers. That's what it really is. When you see, like, this is what happens to Assange, this is what happens to Manning, this is what happens to Snowden. So this is a message to whistleblowers, especially whistleblowers, but whistleblowers and anybody who would publish their stuff or cooperate with them. This is a message. This is a message to you. So I want to ask you this, and then we're going to get into the creative output that you had from this experience, which is kind of like the uplifting, hopeful takeaway. So I see this happening, and I see this as this is a true Orwellian level assault on press freedom, and we're living through it. And we have a complicit media that's not talking about it. And we have, in many ways, a complicit society. I don't think it's because people don't care. I think it's because it's just not being amplified enough. And there's so much going on. But, when you kind of have your ear to the ground on these issues and you see it unfolding, I have a couple moments where I'm just like, wow, this is real. And we're living through it. And I kind of wonder, like, as the dust of history settles, how do you explain this time? And the reason I'm asking you this, I don't have children. You do. Do you have conversations about this sort of thing with your children? And what do you tell them as far as like this snapshot in our time?
Well, I mean, with my teenage daughter, we have a lot of sophisticated conversations, but of course, with the baby and the toddler,
Well, right.
not so much. But it is, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's a very bizarre moment to be alive in so many ways, and a very depressing moment to be alive in so many ways. And I think in times like these, it's particularly important to not get too obsessed with all the stuff that you can't do anything about, and all the dismal developments when it comes to parenting anyway, and to just try to focus on the small things in life that are so beautiful, and make sure that you don't just talk about the depressing developments in the world too much, which I think I probably did too much when my daughter was small. And she's probably got a lot more broad worldview than a 13-year-old should, but it helps that she lives in Portland, where she has a lot of there's a lot of people that support her worldview.
When she was 6, she wanted to do her first book report on Noam Chomsky, and I thought maybe I should have waited a few years for this.
Exactly.
She's got plenty of time to be depressed about all this stuff. Should have eased her into this.
When she was 5
she
years
was
old.
asking questions.
When she was 5 years old, I think, and like I guess first grade, I guess, or 6 years old, in school they were asking the kids, what makes you happy, and the kids were saying things like the slide or the swing set. She said, "Tax the rich." I mean, I'm not sure if she even knew what that meant.
She just heard it.
Yeah.
Did you get called into the principal's office at one point? Were they like, Mr. Rovix, we have a few concerns?
I know. The kids were writing, like, drawing pictures of their mom and dad and stuff like that. And she was drawing pictures of fighter jets with a big X through them, no
Wow.
war underneath, Okay. I think I got the point across a little too well, maybe.
Maybe we should have waited.
Yeah.
It's like, we should have waited, double digits. That's the right time for imperialism. That's when you teach them that stuff,
That's exactly.
Then you sit them down.
That's exactly what I think now. I should have waited to the double digits. That's exactly about.
I wasn't awake politically until I was about 18 or 19. I was a little later. I was in high school. I had some opinions, but I didn't really, like my only opinion about Gore was like, oh, I don't really like his wife because she tried to censor music. Like, which is true, but that was like my only opinion. I didn't have, I didn't have a very well versed, political palette yet at this point in time. I was just a kid on a skateboard trying to play music and hoping girls liked me, and that was it. And it wasn't until college that I kind of woke up. But
yeah.
So one of the really a cool thing, speaking of the beautiful things that do help us through in life, one of those beautiful things, of course, is music. And you've, of course, used music as a messaging tool. You've used music to educate. You've used music to inspire. And you were inspired to make a song from your experience, correct? Like this song is new, and this song is because of what you experienced outside of Belmarsh. Is that correct?
It is actually because it was actually talking with this wonderful filmmaker Niels. Don't even know his last name, so I can't even tell you who he is. But a wonderful Danish filmmaker who lives in London, who I met last time I was at the Ecuadorian embassy, and I, knowing that I wanted to go to Belmarsh, and he also wanted to meet me there. And I had about 4 or 5 days to advance knowledge about this plan, and it occurred to me that really the best thing for this visit would be to write a song that updates people about the situation with Assange, rather than just doing some other song that's related to. I mean, I have a lot of songs that are related to war crimes or other financial corruption that was exposed by WikiLeaks, or so that I have a lot of songs that are very directly related to Assange and his work, which we could have done outside of the prison, that would have been perfectly appropriate and could have been turned into a good video. But I wrote a new song instead, which I think was probably the best thing to do for the occasion.
And this song is called Behind These Prison Walls. And for the first time, this is the first time in Get Your News On with Ron, as long as Get Your News On with Ron has been a show. I've strummed out a few towns on Get Your News On with Ron, but this is the first time where we have an actual music guest. So the track is called Behind These Prison Walls, and David is going to play it for us. Thank you so much, David.
I'm the first musical guest. The microphone hopefully is good enough for the occasion. Behind these prison walls, there's a man who's won awards for the work that he has done and all that it affords, such as the knowledge of the horrors committed in our name. They can't stop the message, so the messenger gets blamed. Behind these prison walls, in solitary confinement, in a land of rolling hills and royalty and other such refinement, is someone who is a hero to whistleblowers everywhere, who helped them tell the world of the crimes of Tony Blair. Behind these prison walls, you will find a mortal man, the reason why we know what happened in Afghanistan, when the soldiers of the empire, whose sun set long before, were torturing civilians in their terror war. Behind these prison walls is a part of WikiLeaks, an eloquent orator, but you won't hear him speak. Locked away in silence, one who knows too well how those in power act when there's another war to sell. behind these prison walls is one who stands accused of exactly what offenses the U.S. has refused to say precisely which, or to try to clear the mist, or to explain how he's not the same as other journalists behind these prison walls is a person they deprive of most of the things in life that keep us all alive. A person being tortured as we stand here now for revealing the war crimes. Why, when, where, how? Behind these prison walls, our very right to be informed of what the hell is going on is the teacup in this storm. With knowledge there is power, so the solution by the crown, a 24-hour-a-day indefinite lockdown behind these prison walls.
That was awesome. Thank you very much for that. That was incredible. That's a beautiful song. So where can people find that song and watch the video? Because I've watched the video. It's a very powerful video. So give people a lowdown on where they can find the music video for that.
Yeah, if they go, at least I got it pinned to the top of my Twitter page and YouTube and Facebook. So those are 3 places they can find it.
And it's at DRovics on Twitter. And of course, your website is davidrovics.bandcamp.com, correct?
Well, yeah, I'm on Bandcamp, but yeah, davidrovics.com.
davidrovics.com. Okay.
And they'll find my podcasts, and I'm doing a monthly live stream broadcast that you inspired me to start doing.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. When are you doing that? What are the details on that? Can people find that just via your website or?
Yeah, it's on there basically every Sunday, every first Sunday of every month at noon Pacific time. I'm just doing a live or some kind of live streamed broadcast kind of thing, multi-cast, whatever we're calling it, multi-platform broadcast.
Yeah. That is awesome. Yeah, it's a beautiful song, man. And just like so many of your tunes, you're if you see David live, it is part history lesson, part protest music, and it's just a great time. And you have a message here from Jack Sith. Thank you very much for that, Jack. And Jack says, "Thanks for your activism, David. #free Assange now." So everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. DavidRovics.com. If you're in the Portland area, you got a show next week in Portland, yeah?
I do. I got a show on December 14th, and I also have a new album coming out actually this month. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So DavidRovics.com for all your David Rovics need. I recommend checking it out. I used to have a lefty morning show. Every day I would end it with Burn It Down by David Rovics. It was a fun time. So David, thank you so much for doing this, man. Thanks for stopping by, sharing this story, and look forward to crossing paths again soon.
Absolutely, Ron. Thank you.
Cheers.